Hello, beautiful souls. Today I am talking about what it means to be the new human. And this came from a session that I did this morning. I was wondering what my video would be about today, and then there it was. And I'm also going to follow it up with some light language today. So this is from the understanding that it is time for us to step into this higher aspect of what it means to be human on the earth at this time, because the inner codices of light that are within our body are waking up at this time for us to be more than we have been, and to break through the barriers of restriction and really claim all that we are. So to me, being the new human is being empowered and saying enough, claiming our autonomy and finding our inner strength and responding to the world in a different way than we have in the past. We're so used to, most of us, many of us, giving our power away and allowing others to determine what our life is going to be and how it's going to unfold, to the point that most of these things are unconscious for us. And that's why it's important to be talking about it, and for us to understand where the patterns are there that are restricting us, that we hardly even recognize until someone brings it to our attention. And it's really claiming our autonomy, which is our freedom. And it requires change. It requires us to be willing to change, because we're not going to become someone different without change. And we have to decide whether we want to live in this higher frequency of being what we could call a new human, or if we're just going to stay where we've been, because it's the decision to say, okay, I'm ready for this. I'm here 100%. I'm going to do what it takes to be resonating at this higher frequency. That decision is required for us to really stay the course and recognize when we're perhaps slipping back or moving into old patterns that keep us from holding the higher frequency. Because to me, it's all about frequency, and every action we take and the decisions that we make also have a frequency. And that is why we have to be so conscious, because we all know 5D is a different frequency than 3D. And so we're moving into this opportunity. That's why all these high frequencies are hitting the earth at this time. A few days ago, I was so incredibly tired, I could hardly believe it. I was just completely wiped. And I checked the Schumann resonance, and it was off the charts for this solid line of off the chart. So there was some energy coming on this planet that was very high and intense. And it takes energy for our bodies to be able to integrate this. And that's why I was so tired and just needed to rest and just let myself absorb it all. And that's when we say yes to the invitation of making this shift. That's one of the things that can happen. But we can't become someone new and keep doing what we've been doing. Of course, we have to be willing to make the changes in our lives that are going to hold that high frequency or lead us to that higher frequency. So one of the big things that I've noticed when I talk to my clients sometimes, and I'm seeing this new potential and the invitation is there for them to make change, immediately the mind kicks in, because that's what we're programmed to do. And this has happened for me and still does. So I'm not excluding myself from this. The mind immediately kicks in and gives you all the reasons that you can't, because the mind thinks it has to figure out the how, which is not true. So our job right now is to be a frequency match for what we want to be, and it will simply show up. So the mind doesn't have to figure it out, because the mind can't figure it out. The mind is not limitless, like the inner knowing that's within us, that spark of light within us. knows all, and it can simply just flow through us as we begin to acknowledge and recognize that this wisdom is within us, and that and we make the decision and the choice that this is our compass now, not the mind trying to figure out the how. So let's say, for example, it would be in the best interest of someone to move because they have roommates that are no longer a frequency match for who they are. It's not a judgment, but if we want to hold our frequency in a certain place, it's much easier when we're with people who meet that frequency or living on our own. And the mind may immediately come in and make up all these reasons why you can't do that. Maybe you don't have the funds to do it. There's limited availability for apartments. So many reasons that the mind can come up with why you can't do this, because it wants to protect you, because it only knows the past. It only knows what it's already done. It doesn't step into that potential that if you make the decision that you want to make a change in your life, and then you trust the inner knowing within you to guide you toward that you will get there. The mind doesn't know that. So what we have to do is not even bring the mind into the equation. Just quiet the mind and recognize that what we need to do is not figure it out, but be a frequency match for what we want to move into. So I think this is really the biggest piece of this message, is our job is to be a frequency match so that the better things that want to come to us, we will be there to bring it into our life experience. If we're wanting to bring in something that's better, which I'm equating to a higher frequency, then we need to be at a level where we can meet that frequency and bring it in. So our job is to do all the things that are going to allow us to be a frequency match. And one is to accept that within us, in this divine spark within us, this spark of light, is the wisdom that knows all and can get us there. And so if we hold that knowing and say, okay, I'm choosing this, so it must already be there. I'm feeling this desire. I'm choosing to vibrate at a higher frequency into this fifth dimension that's available for us now. And the Schumann resonance was proof, you could say, that it's available. The planet is being receiving these higher frequency energies. I'm ready to step into that and move into potentials that have not been available for me before. And so the way that we hold our frequency high is to manage our energy, which to me is frequency. Energy is frequency. And I just have notes here so that I don't lose track of where I want to go. So one thing to look at to hold our frequency high is, where do we give our energy away? And I've just recently recognized that all my life I've been overgiving to the point where I can be depleted and still feel like I have to give. And people can say, well, that's just my nature. But there's a reason we think it's our nature. Like I even having recognized this now, I still have to work with this, especially with my family, where I have a grandchild. I feel guilty if I'm not giving, even if it hasn't been asked of me. I just feel like I should be doing more than I am, because it's this old program of giving to receive love. So in my childhood, I recognized that if I needed to receive love, I had to be giving a lot. I had to make it really easy for others. I couldn't challenge them in any way. I just had to be very giving and kind and generous, to the point where I was very much overgiving. And then I would receive love. So I recognize now I need to pull back and give that love to myself to start with, so that there's more balance, and to recognize where I'm overgiving And I think this is very common in light workers who come in with a big heart and they're just kind and loving and generous people. We can easily overgive. And so when we do that, we're actually depleting our own energy, and we're in an old program that doesn't match the frequency of the empowered human. Everybody's responsible for their own selves. My responsibility is to myself. And if someone asks me for help, I'm going to give it as long as I can. I will even discern where I can give, because it's a matter of having clear boundaries and knowing where our giving is healthy for everyone, where it's required, and where perhaps we're being inclined to overgive again, or to put our needs aside in order to give to another. So if I have clients scheduled, or if I had things that I knew I wanted to get done in the day, but instead I go and help somebody else and put those things on the back burner, I'm actually diminishing myself for the sake of those others. If it's really important and it's required, we have to discern. But if they, let's say, for example, if my daughter and her partner wanted to go do something at the last minute and they didn't want to take their child and they asked me to babysit. Well, if I had other things planned that day, if it would be healthy for me to say no, I'll say no. But if one of them gets hurt and needs to go to the hospital and the other one has to drive them there and they need me to go and babysit, I'm going to say yes. So we have to discern. But we really have to be conscious of where we're giving our energy away. That's one big piece. Because when we give our energy away, we're giving our power away, and that is our frequency. So another big example is saying yes to things when we really want to say no. So maybe we'll say yes to being invited to an event somewhere, and we know that not everybody who's going are people that we enjoy being with, but we say yes anyway because we don't want to offend our friend who's hosting. In that case, we're giving our power away, so we're lowering our frequency because we're not honoring ourselves. So this is what I mean about needing to make a conscious decision, because once we make that decision, then we have to be really aware of where we're diminishing ourselves for the sake of others, instead of being really true and honest to ourselves. Because the more we honor ourselves, the more we step into that place of being more empowered, more autonomous. We don't make decisions based on what other people will think. We're always kind and generous and loving, but we make our decisions based on what is best for us. Again, going back to what I mentioned before about being discerning about the situation. And the mind has reasons for saying yes. And so this is another piece where we get to recognize our patterns. And what does this mean? Oh, I don't want to hurt that person. What would it mean to that person? It may not make any difference whatsoever if you're at this gathering or not. They'll still have a good time with everybody there. So what is it in you that feels like you need to say yes when in truth it's a no? Or maybe there's someone in your family who's very domineering and you find it really difficult to say no to that person. You feel like the consequences almost aren't even worth it. But yet every time we say yes when it's really a no, we are disempowering ourselves. And so it takes courage to make these changes, and it takes conscious living and conscious attention to where these old patterns are that just creep in, and we think, oh, well, I'm just doing this because they're family, and, it's important to do things with your family. Say it's a family member who wants you to do something that you don't want to do. Like, we can easily override why we're doing it instead of getting to the real truth of why we're doing it. So it really requires conscious attention to who we are, how we respond, why we respond in the way we do, and then coming back to getting strong within ourselves. So we have to be strong in our own mind, and part of that strength is managing our beliefs, like me saying, no, I don't need to go visit my daughter today or offer to do something there. I can wait until I'm asked to help or support. Not that I'm never going to go visit my grandchild, of course, but it's recognizing why I want to visit. Do I want to visit because it's alive in me and it would be so much fun and so much joyful and the moment just feels like that wants to happen? Fine, go and visit. But if it's wanting to visit because something in my mind is saying, oh, it's been a few days, you probably should contact and just connect and see how things are going. That's not coming from the same pure space. That's coming from a muddy space of a program from the past that thinks I will only be loved by her if I stay in contact so much, that kind of thing. There's a huge difference between the two. And that's what we need to recognize and really get strong. Saying no when it's really a no, because I'm no longer willing to diminish myself for the sake of someone else who maybe is not a frequency match for me or not making the choice to make these life transitions that I'm choosing for myself. So I hope that makes sense. And also when we're going through this, sometimes we can feel like old friendships need to fall away because we can just feel ourselves so different. As we make these shifts, we can recognize in others where they haven't already made that shift, and it becomes a frequency mismatch, maybe just for a while. But just pay attention. I've noticed for myself that it can bring about an irritability because I've just recently made a change. And so then if I put myself in a situation that was sort of the frequency that I've just moved out of, I can get irritable because I'm putting myself in a position that perhaps feels like it's a bit of old energy for me now instead of where I'm choosing to be. And that irritation, I think, is just a process in time. It may not arise as an irritation, but because the shifts and changes that I'm now going through are so new to me that I see that there. So it's going to mean a lot of change. It can mean a change in who we spend our time with, and that can include family or long-standing friends. And that's part of why it takes courage for us to do this and a clear decision that this is what we want to do. And again, I feel like I just need to acknowledge that this is all coming from a place of compassion. It's not saying that someone's less than us, because they're not. And it's not putting them down for not being at the same place where I am. Everybody's on their own course. Everybody's on their own path. And it's not a race and it's not a hierarchy. It's a personal choice for evolution, and it's a personal stage where we are in our own evolution. So there's no judgment around this at all. It's just an understanding and awareness. So I am going to bring through some light language now to just bring about the activation for us to be strong in being able to make these choices for ourselves. Because, for example, with this client that I had recently, she had some incredible health breakthroughs, and then it slipped back a bit. And she recognized that she spent days giving to a friend that actually diminished her. And she got out of bed feeling really tired, and everything in her inner knowing was saying, call in sick today and stay in bed because you need this rest. And she didn't. And then she had a setback. So this is an example of how this can impact us. She had an incredible healing with doing light work together. And then we have to honor that state that we've achieved. So what came through recently with her was that she didn't sort of honor the level that she had created for herself. And so she slipped back, and that's fine. That's the growth pattern. You know, this 2 steps forward and 1 step back. That's actually a spiral of growth in the universe. So we shouldn't judge ourselves for when we go back a step. Actually, that can mean integrating and gaining new awareness, and really getting to see very clearly the difference between where we were and sort of where we shifted up to. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, that's why I want to be really strong and stay in this new frequency, because yeah, it feels better than where I was. We almost forget where we were. And so all of this is a natural process. So always to be kind and generous with ourselves. But I'll bring through this light language to help us really shift up into this new frequency that's available for us, and what it means to be the new human on earth, which really is who we've always been, but we're having to move through these programs that have been so ingrained within us. We're having to have the courage and the strength to really let those go, because it does require a lot of discernment and focus and intention and attention to maintain it and consciously move into it. So this is for those who are choosing to do that. Hi kashni yashna atma ishkana atwa I ishkanai. Magtiktika atwa e ishkanai taktawa I ashkana atmatna. Machki atwa ishkanai o tiktakashkani yatna. Machkiyatwa ashkana e ishakna ishkana atmatna. Machkiyatwa I ishkana matiktaka atwa ekana. Machkiyatwachka ishkana achna miktaka atwatna. Hashkiya ishkana otiktaka ashkana atmatna. Michkayo takteya shkini ashkana matnawa. Magletaka atwa hishkana miktaka atwa ekana. Hukte ashkini ashkana. Ishkana atma ishkana ashkana I ashkana atmatna. Machki atwa ashkana I akma ishkana atwa e. Ishkana imaktaka eoko. Ilatwi ashkani ashkama atna ashkani iakna machki ashktak ashkana. Maklishkana iashkana aktaki ishkana atmatnatki ishkana o ektaka ishkana matnawa I ashka. Iashka tati ashkana matawa I ashkana. Ishkana mayaktaka iashkana maktaka e ikana a. Iakla ishkana ashkani I maktaka I akna matnawa I ashkana atwatna ti. Watiktika ashkana mataka e I akna e maktaka. Watch kiashkana ashkana eaktaka ishkana ha. Waktaka hashkina ya. Imakshwa a ishkana. Matiktaka atwa e ana. Matitako I kachnia maktaka atwatna. Machechika ishkana ishkana ishkana. My apologies for the phone jumping in there. It made me jump. This was so powerful. I saw something I've never seen before. So first they were showing me where we are when we're in sort of the 3D world and removing programs from that space, and then showing us becoming empowered, and then showing the wisdom that comes from the great central sun, from the sun to us. And it was being anchored from above and down through our column, and I saw the torus field again, and the energy moving through us with the torus field allowing that column in the middle, and then going into the earth, and then it was going to come back up from the earth. But what I got is that there's tainted energy, you could say, in the earth, frequencies in the earth that are not all harmonious with our 5D selves and with the higher frequency that we're here to hold. And so they did some healing work first in the earth. So with each one of us who's listening to this, and the column of light that was created moving down through us and into the earth, that was used to bring about this healing light into the earth to change that frequency, change the resonance of that frequency, and that healing happened. And then the new light was brought up through the earth and up through us. And we again were anchoring from the wisdom of the central sun that comes through us. And then at the end, seeing us becoming, everyone smiling, holding this new intention of knowing who we are and our empowered selves in this shift into the new human self. So I would invite you to listen to that light language often, and especially when you feel like it's harder to hold the higher frequency of light that you're choosing to be in, or you're in situations that perhaps you've taken on some energy, feeling energy that you would like to shift up, to just use it again to support you in that way. So beautiful soul, so wonderful to be here with you as always. Thank you for being present and with your own presence here, anchoring this light into the world and adding what it is that you would like to receive in this light language, empowering yourself in the way that feels right for you. I will see you soon, sending so much love. And I also just want to put out there that I have a new membership called The Gateway. And we're building a beautiful community with very powerful light language activations coming through that. There's 3 different levels to the gateway. The basic level is my love notes. So 5 days a week, you get this empowering messages in your inbox. And so you can check that out at the link below on my website. If you would like to be supportive of my work, that's a beautiful way to not only support what I'm doing, but also become part of a very conscious community that is here to lovingly support one another as we move through these incredible times that we're in. I'm also going to be creating a program from fear to freedom. I started it a while ago and it went on the back burner, but I feel it's really important to bring it forward now. And I feel I'm going to do that as a live online workshop with me. So stay tuned for that. That will be coming up fairly soon. Okay, sending lots of love to you all. Bye-bye.